www.themilafoundation.org. Again, that's www.themilafoundation.org, because every life matters.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZW LP Conroe and 106.1 KZCC LP Conroe, and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schisler. I'm your host of the Weekly Business Hour. I'm also a Silver Fox advisor, as well as the founder of oneconsult.com. I think I got that out. It's onebestconsult.com. You'll have to excuse me. It's Monday morning, and I'm still cranking up here, but glad to be with you. Thank you for joining us. Let me start off and kind of get you thinking about business. A quick thought. How has your business done in the first quarter? In 15 days, give or take, we're going to be done with the first quarter of 2024. I mean, for me, it is just blown by. In your business, how have you done? Ask yourself that question if you haven't already done so. Looking at the entire quarter, though, a lot of folks, at least folks I've worked with, they don't necessarily pay that much attention, but it is good on a regular basis. It is a good business move, a solid move to stop and take a look at the quarter, to take stock, if you will, of your financials, okay? Are you filling the job openings you might have? Have you had turnover? What are your issues been? What are your main challenges? And the point is, it makes you stop and look to address them instead of carrying them over into the second quarter. It is good to take a breath every once in a while and look back. And don't wait too long, because I know the financials won't be out till April 5th or April 10th or some reasonable date, and you got to react because days are going by, and if there's something truly that can be fixed, truly help your profitability, your revenue, you want to jump on it and get started on it. So don't delay. Take a look back and answer the question, how did you do in the first quarter of 2024? The Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and businesses now worldwide come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve your business, and to be part of conversations that we hope can make a real difference in your business. I want to remind you that the show is currently live on Facebook and YouTube. Simply go to the Weekly Business Hour page, click on it, and you can watch as well as listen to the program. Also, most importantly to me and the show is that if you have a thought, if you have a criticism, constructive now, of the show, send me an email. If you have a business issue in your own, we bring those on the air sometime in our segment known as the mailbag. So send them to me. It's real simple. Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. That's Rick at irlonestar.com. Let me hear from you. It's my favorite part of the day to open up my email and see one or more emails from folks that are listeners and have some good business questions they'd like to talk about. Well, today we have a very, very, very special guest with us, Mr. John Stacy. He's been on the show. He's hosted the show. So I would say he's at least a regular, wouldn't you? John, I appreciate you taking time. I need to mention that John is an AdviCoach, and he's got a lot of wisdom and experience in how to build a successful business, and we're going to talk about some of that today. John, welcome.
Well, thank you. I appreciate having the opportunity to be here again, Rick. And the way you started talking about the first quarter is really, really good. I want to spend a little bit of time today really talking about, how can you be successful in inflationary times? And so it's about finding ways for companies, nonprofits, and individuals to really thrive in this inflationary times. So I really wanted to spend a little bit of time talking really at the macro level. What are we seeing? Because there's a lot of, you hear a lot of positive things about the economy, the stock market. And when it comes down to it, there's a lot of things, though, that when you really get underneath the covers and see where we are from an economic perspective, we've got some challenging times. And, so you look at real wages. Real wages over the last 3 years are flat. You look at interest rates, and you see those on a regular basis. They went from 3.7 to over 6%, almost 7. You've got increases in food prices significantly. And I can tell you the story about going shopping with my wife at Kroger's. And I was amazed because I really don't do that much grocery shopping. You look at credit card are at all-time highs, credit card balances for people. People are continuing to maintain their lifestyle with increased prices, and the only way they can do it is by borrowing at now 20 and 30%. So that's pretty interesting. Savings rates are down from over 12% to 3.8%. So you look at everything, and what you hear is the economy is doing well, but there's a lot of things that says, you know what, we're not doing as well. And so with that, I want to talk a little bit about, in talking with my clients, what they're seeing at a micro level.
Well, it's very interesting, and this is a wonderful topic, somewhat similar to the look back, because you're not going to just look back at revenue, or you're not going to look back at overhead. You look back at the whole picture. And unfortunately today, we get to hear and read about just bites of information, and typically just the ones that are positive. And when you laid out those 5 or 6 points, like real wages, the fact is, overall, in our economy, real wages, which means inflation taken into consideration, people are not beating inflation. So when they get a raise, it's just to keep up. And I find it kind of funny. I've worked with people that say, well, I'm going to give a 3% raise. I said, well, inflation's 5% or whatever. And I said, that's not really a raise. I mean, and there'll be some people in your organization that will know that information. So be careful. And so we have a lot of things that are dragging this economy that don't get a lot of conversation. So I'm anxious to hear about what your clients are telling you.
Well, and I'm going to tell you the other side of the story. And you hear about the stock market. The stock market hit some all-time highs again, 39,000, I think. But if you look at where we've been over the last several years, the fact of the matter is it's increased about 25, 26%. Inflation cumulatively is over 20%. Now that tells me that if the market had stayed with inflation, we'd be at over 20%. So we've gained 1, maybe 2% in the stock market a year, which is abysmal. But that's not what people are talking about. It's a record. Well, it's driven by inflation. And, so that's something that we need to think about. But the other thing that I talk about my clients and what they're seeing soft sales, anything related to service for residential, housing. You look at businesses that provide services, have multiple things going on. Soft sales, number one. And so their average ticket is going down, what the average person is paying, or they're not doing these projects. They're just not spending the money to do it because they don't know what's going to go on with the economy. See margins decreasing about 5 points. 5 points is significant when you've got a 10% net income. They've cut their profit in half. And when you start doing the calculation between a 20% increase in my expenses, a 5-point decrease in my margin, now if I run $1 million business, I'm a millionaire, right? If I run $1 million business today to make the same amount of money, I need to generate about $1.2 million in revenue. Just to make the same amount of money, I was at 1 million, which is scary when it comes down to it because we've got soft sales. We've got a lot of people that are pulling back and saying, okay, I've got to cut costs. I've got to find a way to cut costs. And also then, what can I do from a revenue perspective to maybe find a way, maybe it's a recurring revenue, is there something I can do with my business to generate additional revenue from a different source? So those are some things that we see people doing, cutting and people always talk about cutting costs. Today, it's a real necessity to cut costs because if you don't, that the amount of money that you were going to make or you did 2 years ago, you're not going to make it today. And how do you survive?
Yeah, again, there's lots of things pulling it back, and I agree, and in particularly with small business people who tend to be a little slower in some cases of either recognizing the issue or reacting or making the right decision, going the right route, taking the right thing off the table, cutting the right expense. It's difficult, particularly when you're a small business and you are on your own. So there's a lot of challenges for them to react to this situation, and they need some help. I mean, they really do.
Well, and then you look at what employees are dealing with today. Because as a business owner, you're dealing with certain things, and a big component of your expenses are employees. Well, employees are dealing with that same inflationary issue, right? And so when you start talking about that, they're looking for additional money. So you've got to end up giving raises just to stay in competition with the other people. So people are looking for jobs someplace else where they can make an extra 50 cents or $1 an hour. So what do you do from a retention perspective? Not only do I need to cut costs, and it can't be employees, I've got to also look at retention. So how do I handle retention and recruiting to get new employees?
Well, and I think that's very difficult. And again, I go back to the example I gave a while ago. I'm chuckling because I'm going to give a raise to help my people. Well, I give them 5% when they need 8 or 10% to just stay even. And I think I've done, because that's all I can afford, right? It just, we're boxed in. We're boxed in as a small business owner.
Well, and you look at big business owners, and I think Ford or the contract with Ford and Chevy, I think that those unions got, I think it was 20% this year, and then I'm not sure how much after that, but it was pretty significant. So they kind of got back to the inflationary, or the inflation. Okay, that's great for the employee. What's the cost of the car? Okay, your cars are gonna go up as related to the employees that have just gotten a huge increase. How much is that going to be? I can't tell you. But it's not just small businesses, big businesses that have the same situation.
Well, and you make a great point. I happen to be in the market for a new car, so I've been doing some shopping. And what I'm finding as I read things and whatnot is that the car sales have been fairly good throughout the country. But in the Houston area, for example, they're weak. And that, of course, is what's going to happen. In which I have found what I paid for my vehicle 3 or 4 years ago versus same vehicle. That's where I always start. If I'm going to buy, I couldn't believe the difference, the inflation. And even next year, what's already showing models for next year is more. So what's going to happen to their business if it follows through is they're going to price it, and people are going to hang on to their old vehicle, which is, what used to be 5, 6, 7 years, then became 8. And I read something the other day that 10 years is the average life of a vehicle, meaning they held on to it or drive a car that's an average of 10 years old. So that means you got some 15s and some 12s. And so that to me is a direct result of the cost of the vehicle, plus the loans are 7, 8% now versus what they were just 6 months ago. So it all adds up, and I wouldn't want to be in the car business right now, that's for sure.
Well, or having to buy one. Again,
Right.
With all those things I'd mentioned on the macro level, how does an employee, how does an individual really afford what they need to do? And that becomes a challenge. And so that's one of those things that I've been looking for, ways to save money for employees, ways to save monies for companies, nonprofits. It really doesn't matter. Anybody spending money, there are ways to save money, and there's ways to help when it comes to retention and recruiting.
Well, and I think you make a good point. In my case with the car, I'm not going to replace my car with an equal or the same vehicle. I'm going down. It's still a nice, but a different kind of vehicle. That's $10,000 cheaper than what they want for what I drive now. And that's what you're seeing. People are, the stats are out there. People are going to the discount retailers for groceries like Costco and Walmart. They're moving off the brands like you at Kroger And this is a shift. I think it's a big shift, and it's happened before in the history. But our small businesses have got to do some shifting too.
Well, and so what's available out there? And so when it comes down to it, recently I spent a lot of time just going line by line through the P&L of my clients and saying, okay, what can we do with this? Okay, and so there's insurance. Okay, if you've got any kind of trucks on the road, there's a significant insurance. So we spent some time even re-quoting what potential policies are out there. There's things with, from an employee perspective, there's healthcare, some preventive healthcare benefits that are out there, Section 125, that are available that can help companies save money, as well as then provide additional benefits, which helps retention for employees. So there's these types of programs that are helpful for the company. There's some other programs out there that helps an individual save money, the company also, but on your monthly bills. What are your monthly bills? You might have TV, you might have direct TV, you might have security, you might have all these things that you're spending on a monthly basis. There's programs out there, don't cost anything to negotiate for you, to help cut your costs. And I guess it's an advertisement, but I thought I was doing pretty well, except that they saved me $3,000. Well, that helped me, and that's the thing that can help employees, and really it's employees, anybody that has any kind of expenses, because you've got to find a way, and these companies that are out there, they're not going to offer it to you unless you ask.
Well, and you make an excellent point, and I'm familiar with those consumer companies that offer that opportunity to renegotiate the cable bill and things like this. And these are the kind of things I believe that a company can bring to their employees to introduce them to these kind of things. And you make a great point. In other words, we care. We are trying to find ways for you, if you so choose, to reduce your cost, your day-to-day living cost. And I think it's wonderful. Way back when, I worked with a company that the health insurance issue. Small company, had 8-10 employees, and so they wanted to provide, but they decided, for this, it was just, it's a lot of paperwork and everything. So they gave everybody a raise, $2,000 or $3,000 or something, and said, here, we have a health insurance benefit that's available if you want to subscribe to it. It was not the employer, it was directly one-on-one for the employee, which today you see them everywhere. Obamacare is the gold star, if you will, of that. But the idea for the owner of that business was, I want to help. He had one employee went and bought a home because now he could pay a mortgage. Had that down payment, and it put him in, but he wasn't worried about health care. So in that way, it was a plus too, because people had a choice of where that extra money was going to go.
And on those types of programs, and you see a lot more of this with technology, there's things that they can do to automate it, to make it simple for the employer and simple for the employee, which is really fantastic. Again, so if one particular program I'm thinking of, it can save the employer $600-700 a year per employee and provide preventative benefits to the employee, which they don't pay for, which is pretty fantastic. But you've got to look at those things, and that's just one example. There's a lot of other ones that to me go the other way, but ERISCA, there's with the Department of, I forget, U.S. Department of
Labor?
Labor. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. There's some real significant compliance and risk issues when it comes to ERISA, and when you talk about that, most companies, or on average, 5% of the people that are on people's health care today shouldn't be there. They're not legitimate, at an average of about $6,000 an employee. So there's companies that come in, automated, and evaluate who is compliant and who's not. But you eliminate significant risk with the Department of Labor. So there's those types of programs, which some people would say, well, that's it's kind of against the employee. Well, 95% of your employees are doing it right, but they're paying for the 5% that aren't.
Right.
Maybe we need to take a look at that. just some examples of other programs that are available to people to save money and, by the way, eliminate risk. In those types of programs, though, you've got to have a minimum of 30 to 50 employees. Still small, but it's not the 10 employee type programs.
Makes sense. Well, believe it or not, John, we're to the point where we need to take a little bit of a break,
Okay.
commercial break, and we're going to do that right now. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you continue to listen. We're going to continue this road down through maintaining your business and the challenges in today's business environment. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Lone Star Community Radio is ready for the summer. If you or anyone you know is looking for a summer internship, Lone Star Community Radio is a great place to learn the radio and TV business. Contact the station at info@irlonestar.com or call the station's message line at 936-647-3776. Lone Star Community Radio offers a great opportunity to those interested in learning about the radio world.
Have a legal question? Are you a resident of Montgomery County? Call 281-645-6344 to talk to a volunteer attorney from the Woodlands Bar Association. We answer the phones on the first Monday of every month at 281-645-6344 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. to provide general legal information and information about legal resources to Montgomery County residents.
Hey there, Conroe. This is Andrew from the Audience of One show that airs Wednesdays at 10 a.m. right here on KZCC 106.1 and 104.5 FM. Make sure to tune in and keep it on for Community Radio's version of a slow motion train wreck. You will hear our take on some of the world's oddest news, our mind droppings, and general banter from your favorite radio friends, me and Dick Schisler. We are also available on all of your favorite podcasting platforms.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show. With monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and we're having what I consider a fantastic conversation today with our old friend John Stacy, who's an AdviCoach, and he is sharing with us really a great number of stories and experience that he's had of trying to navigate through the current business environment where inflation is kind of the buzzword, but there's so much more, right, John, hiding in the corner.
There is so much hiding out there, and it's so easy for business owners who've been operating for a long period of time to forget to go look on a regular basis to see what money they're dropping. Because when it comes down to it, cash is still the name of the game. You know, cash is king. So what do I need to do to generate more cash? And there's two ways of, probably more than two, but two ways of doing it. I've either got to generate revenue, and there's a lot of things you can do when you look at your business, and then it's about saving money. So if I can focus on those two things, or have one person focus on this and one person focus on this, but I've got to spend the time to look through the P&L and say, do I need to spend that money? I'm spending this much money on entertainment. Do I need to spend that money? Utilities. How come my utilities are up so much? Do I need to spend that money? But it takes time, but there is so much reward when you spend the time to do that. And we were talking earlier, there are companies that will help you do that, okay? If you don't have the time to do it as an owner, there are companies that will help you find money in your utilities, in your taxes, and it may not be your CPA, okay? Because a CPA may be doing your taxes, but they may not be looking at what's in your best interest when it comes to the taxes you are paying. So there's a lot of different savings programs. You have to take the time, either do it yourself or have someone do it. And it'll generally be no upfront cost, only if they find a savings. So what's the risk?
Well, and you make an excellent point. And it's funny, growing up in a family business, I got exposed to a lot of different things as far as way early in my life compared to most folks. And the business grew very fast. And my father had the controller, the position of controller. That individual was a profit center. How could they make a profit? How could they? Mm-hmm. Well, they got a management fee. That wasn't, it was saving money. And I mean, I saw savings on Social Security, like you mentioned, FICA type things. It was just, and it was, my dad had an expression, I've heard it before other places, it was found money. So if that guy can bring $10, $20, $50, $100,000 in, why not? And it was doing things like you're discussing today. But the controller was put in charge of, beyond just being a controller, of looking for found money, which I always thought that was a chuckle. But not many companies, I don't think, were doing it back then of the size of a small business.
Well, so you talk about your controller and the found money guy, right?
Yep.
So he's focused on finding money, cutting expenses, and it's really on that side, not so much on the revenue side. So then my question really goes down to a discussion about how do I find additional revenue? And I can go back to an example with COVID. With COVID, there's a lot of companies. I've got a friend that has a commercial cleaning company. Well, guess what? People started canceling during COVID, canceling his business. He wasn't cleaning, but he had it. But he came up with another product, which a lot of people did, which is sanitizing against COVID. So he rebuilt actually he grew his business, even though he lost clients due to COVID, with this sanitizing. Now, guess what? No one cares about sanitizing right now. So that part of the business dropped off, but in the process, he's been able to grow his business with commercial clients. So when it comes down to it, there's a lot of those types of things. Some people that were doing bottling started bottling sanitizers, okay? There's ways, if you kind of get out, I hate to use this, the old get outside the box, there's ways to find revenue that you could do that is tangentially to your business. It's something that you can add on. It's relatively simple. It doesn't cost you money, but it's another stream of income. So the other thing that people ought to be looking at is what other stream of income with my existing business, what other stream of income could I add? Possibly, is there something I can do with recurring revenue, something I can bill for month after month after month with providing a service? But it's so much easier at that point with that revenue to predict what you're going to be. And by the way, your company becomes more valuable when you want to sell it.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I think during COVID, my favorite was the restaurants generally woke up and said, takeout. We need to set up really to do takeout. Well, we had it, but not much. But we really set up a staff and whatnot, and we take it to the car. And there's still restaurants that'll do that today. When you place the order, they'll bring it out to your car. Something they never thought about. And I happen to be a consumer that if we're going to eat at home, I love bringing it to the car. That way I don't have to go inside, this, that, prepaid. So there's a service that popped up and has stayed around. And I definitely know it's increased their business, because if they didn't have it, I might go down the street to somebody else who does. So thinking outside the box, I know that's an old cliche, but I think everybody needs a little box on their desk. I happen to have one, by the way, to remind you to think outside the box.
Okay.
So no doubt about it. Well, John, what do you see occurring in the future? I mean, as we move forward today into this environment, which, again, I think you and I 100% agree, it's a very challenging environment with all these, the inflation is there, but that's not even half the story. What do you see the future? What's going to happen? Not so much, I guess, with the economy, but what are small business people? What do they need to be doing right now to meet the demand of the future over the next few years?
Well, actually, the last time we talked about MASH, and it really came down to what are we doing to look at our business today. So what this whole conversation about today is evaluating my business, and I'll get around to answering your question in a second, but I have to evaluate my business on a more regular basis if I want to be successful in the future. If I don't do that, then and it's not all about money, okay? But financially, if I want to continue to make the money that I need to make, which is 20% more now than it was, I have to do something different, okay? And there's so many business owners that are willing to accept not change or not changing anything and accepting the result. And the fact of the matter is, we need to be open to change. And if we're not open to change, we are going to struggle. If we are open to change and think about doing some things differently, if we go through our P&L and really focus on those things we can change, if we focus on some different revenue streams, we can change that. Because I think that we're going to have to be more open to change. And we can say, well, change is constant, right? I think the rate of change is going to continue to increase. I think if we don't embrace some things that are going on, like with AI, there's some things I'm doing with AI today I would have never thought about, okay? But there's so many things that we can do. So if we don't kind of adapt and change, then we are going to become dinosaurs. And so as a business owner, we really need to be open to look at new technology. What can I do to automate? I've got one of my clients which is spending a bunch of time automating processes, and it's having a significant impact on his ability to grow the business. It's one of those things that you just have to do. So accept change, find new ways to use the technology to help you grow your business.
You know, you make a wonderful point. That word change, of course, that's been discussed and written about, and lecture series and everything, and can we accept change, all that kind of stuff. But I think you're right on point. I think things are coming more rapidly, and I think personally one of the reasons that the baby boomers are getting out of business in many cases, I read, sooner than they wanted. Of course, COVID triggered some of that, but that's because they didn't want to face the change. They didn't feel that, hey, I built this business and now I've got to do these changes, and I'm tired. I'm just not, what they're basically saying, I just don't want to invest capital or anything of my blood, sweat, and tears in changing. So I think we're going to see somewhat of a shrinkage in the small businesses because people won't embrace the change.
And you make a great point when it comes to the boomers. And the fact of the matter is, 10,000 people turn 65 every day. A lot of those are business owners. And they want to sell their biggest asset, which is their company. And the challenge is they really haven't prepared their company for sale. They didn't think that far ahead. And it takes 3 to 5 years to really prepare your company for sale. So there's people that are leaving with the inflation stuff that's going on. Everything that's happening in the economy. There's people that are leaving money on the table because they didn't take the time or didn't think far enough in advance. So the money they thought they might have had when they sold their company to live once they retire, it's not there. And so there's a lot of challenging people that are baby boomers that when they see that, they're going to be disappointed, but it's too late to change. So what do you do today to help them? And so some of the things we talked about today, which is about saving money, generating some recurring revenue, those things are something they need to focus on today before they run out of time to exit their business.
Well, that's that old situation where people just wake up one morning, I want to sell my business. And we had Rich Hall on a couple weeks ago, who's a specialist in exit business and plans. And of course, like you, like me, you need 3 years plus. I'm a believer that, in fact, Rich and I talked about it, you really start when you open the business. With a very simple plan of when you're going to exit, how much, and to whom are you going to transfer or sell the business. And people don't think about it. They put their heads down, they grind it. I get it. It is a grind in many cases. But now the opportunity arises, and they can really, you talk about leaving money on the table, a lot of times it's most of the money. If you just wake up one day and you got to sell the business. So no, it's very important in my mind if in fact you consider that business an asset and not just a job. My dad used to always talk about people quit the corporate life or whatever, and they opened a bit just they wanted a job and they wanted to be in control, more or less. And so they made their salary, but yet they had all this liability. We had some good discussions about those concepts. I was blessed to have somebody that would educate me. So where do we go from here, John?
Well, take some advice. Go through your P&L. Focus on what you can do to save money. If you want, contact me. I can be more than happy just to talk to you, give you some options as far as what you can do to save money, what you can do to generate revenue. And I think that will be a positive thing in helping you and your employees get to a point where you can really be more successful when it comes to living in these inflationary times.
And I think it's just like anything in the old expression. If it doesn't kill me, it makes me stronger, right? Something like that. So I think we'll go through that.
Yep.
And I think when you survive now, you build a stronger business. It's more valuable when you decide to exit. There's a lot of good reasons. Plus, you provide for your family,
Right.
Which I happen to believe is one of the biggest challenges is your family's involvement in your business, even if they don't work there. So.
Well, I'm going to say one last thing. I think this may be more of a challenging time than COVID was. Mm-hmm. Okay, just different factors, but it's a we're in this long term. No one thinks inflation prices aren't going to come down. They're gone up. They're not coming back. So we need to learn how to live with it and adjust how we live and adjust our businesses and make the changes we need to be successful.
All I can say is hell freeze over before I'll pay $70,000-$80,000 for a damn pickup truck, you know. So it hits you between the eyes and you see what's happening. So, John, I can't thank you enough for taking time to join us today. Enjoyed the discussion. Hopefully the listeners will be able to take some of that information and use it in their business, perhaps even today. If people want to reach out to you and talk to you about today or just the future, what's the best way for them to do it?
My email address is J as in John, JSTACY at AdviCoach, which is ADVICOACH.com. I think my contact information will be here at the radio station. My name is John Stacy. You can always go to LinkedIn and find me there. And I think those are probably the best ways. But would love to talk to people. It doesn't cost anything to talk. Let's just find a way to help you.
Well, thank you again so much. And I encourage folks that are listening, if any of this resonated with you, reach out and talk to John. I think it's valuable. We can all use a mentor, but don't get me going on that. What's coming up in the second half today? Mailbag. There's one of those sent in by one of our listeners. I entitled it Managing the End of the Road for Your IT Assets. IT assets are something, your computers, that a lot of small businesses don't pay much attention until they break, and that's the wrong time to have to pay attention. And the tip of the week, I'm going to continue to discuss what I call my traits of successful entrepreneurs. We ran out of time last week, but I want to take the time today, if possible, to go through some of those so you can reflect on whether your characteristics match those traits. So please stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment and continue the show, The Weekly Business Hour.
A Lone Star Community Radio is ready for the summer. If you or anyone you know is looking for summer internship opportunities, a Lone Star Community Radio is a great place to grab the mic and be on the air. A Lone Star Community Radio offers a great opportunity to those interested in learning about the radio world all year round. Be an on-air personality, talk show producer, or YouTube, TV, podcast editor. Contact the station at info@irlonestar.com or call the station's message line at 936-647-3776.
Listen in Mondays at noon to hear Conroe news from local nonprofits, businesses, upcoming events, Conroe Park events, news stories, and information that matters to you with your host, Margie Taylor of Taylorized PR. For more information about being a guest, visit irlonestar.com/Conroe Culture.
We have the safest food supply in the world. Strict laws and regulations restrict the usage of hormones, antibiotics, and pesticides within our food supply. Production agriculture practices and technologies such as the use of GMOs, which is not any more or less risky than conventional crop production, has allowed American farmers to produce more food on less acres in environmentally sound ways. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M Agri-Life Extension, helping Texans make lives better.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and we deeply appreciate that. We're going to continue today's show and talk about your IT assets, i.e. your computer system. A lot of folks really don't pay much attention to it. But before we go into that, though, I want to remind you that a podcast, video cast of today's program will be available in a couple days. You can find it on YouTube, find it on Facebook. You can find it on the radio station's website at irlonestar.com and click on morning programs and the Weekly Business Hour, and it'll all be there for you. So please check it out if you miss something or if you'd like to share it. That's what we love. Just share it with other people. It makes a big difference. That's how we develop new listeners. So let's go into the mailbag. Frank wrote in and asked about his IT assets, his computers. He had, I believe it said here, a dozen, give or take, computers throughout his business, and he had remote workers that worked, laptops, things like that, and he had a server. So he had a small IT setup. And the question is, what do we do, or how do we determine, how do we manage the end of life on our IT assets? And again, it's not a major issue, but it's an issue that too often gets overlooked. Because if you try to get too much out of your computer and it shuts down on you, then that typically, even if it's just a work unit, just somebody's computer at their desk, it creates a bunch of noise and wasted time, which you don't need to happen to yourself. First and foremost, understand, if you don't already, a lot of us have had failures where all of a sudden the computer shuts off, shuts down, something happens. And unless you're into the IT, you don't know what's happened. You've got to call a service person or reach out to a friend that helps you. But they don't warn, okay? They're either on or they're off. So put that in your mind, and that's the foremost thing to remember about your computer systems. They generally don't warn you when they're going to fail. So that means we need to get ahead of the game and replace our equipment on a regular schedule basis. Now, the thing about computer equipment is that it really has a useful life, maximum efficiency, typically of 36 to 60 months, so 3 to 5 years. So that's the kind of timeline you're looking. So if you buy it today, if it's a workstation, 3 years, 5 years, and it needs to be replaced. If no other reason, technology is improved, the machine will run faster, it will do a better job for you, it'll have hopefully less of a failure rate because they build it better, they learn things. The same is true of servers and other parts of your IT system. So it's important, 3 to 5 years. And I know people have workstations, desktop computers, even laptops that are 10 years old or whatever, and they're typically very proud of that. But I would like to double back and ask them the day it fails how they feel about it. And this is really what we're working towards, is to reduce the chance of failure. So if you know the life cycle, the second thing is you need to budget. Well-run companies typically are replacing a certain percentage of their workstations, laptops, every year, and their servers on a regular basis as well. So you build a budget so that you don't have to be concerned that you've got to replace all of the systems at one time. A little bit each year, so to speak, makes it work. Catastrophic failure, again, is the worst enemy, and it's just amazing. All of a sudden now you need to order a new system, go down to the store and buy it. Many times you end up buying something that is not what you want. It's not your specification, but it's available now. So there's lots of reasons to not wait until it's just failure time in the computer, the workstation, the laptop just plain fails. This puts you in what's known as a reactive scenario, and we all know that if we're reacting to something instead of being in a mode of planning and being out ahead of it, that it's going to cost us more time, money, and talent. So don't forget your computer assets. Be sure you pay attention to them and put them on a schedule. Put them and make them part of your budget. We're going to take a very short break, and then we're going to come back and finish up today's show. And I want to continue with the time allowed, the traits of successful entrepreneurs.
Statistics show that 1 out of every 6 Texans struggles with food insecurity and hunger. And many people don't eat enough fruits and vegetables every day. The Better Living for Texans program is here to help you learn how to make healthy menu choices, save money at the grocery store, prepare quick and delicious meals, get more good nutrition in your day, and get more physical activity. Classes are fun, friendly, interactive, and free, and taught in English and Spanish. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio. Broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
What can the Better Living for Texans program do for you? You can learn how to increase your consumption of fruits and vegetables, choose foods that are relatively inexpensive and good to eat, make your food dollars last longer, prepare quick, nutritious meals, help your children learn how to eat healthier snacks, and much more. Our program is committed to helping people like you improve your health through providing research-based nutrition education in a friendly, cost-free, and relaxed environment. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Lone Star Community Radio is looking for those who are interested in hosting their own talk show, with monthly and weekly slots available on Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776.
Every Friday, tune into Texas Ticket on Conroe's 104.5 and 106.1 FM with Armando Nino of Gold Lake Conroe, focusing on Montgomery County area events and places. Get a feel of the Texas spirit at the event, paired with guest and vendor interviews, event coverage, and ticket giveaways, and so much more. Join us Fridays and punch your Texas ticket. For more information on the show, visit irlonestar.com/Texas Ticket.
Does your company have needs that can be met by an employee who is dependable, hardworking, enthusiastic, motivated, cooperative, respectful, and punctual? Conroe Independent School District Special Education Department can meet your needs by connecting you with potential employees that have been preparing for a lifetime of employment. We have numerous individuals seeking paid and unpaid work experiences. If your company is interested in seeing how we can meet your business needs, call Conroe ISD Special Education Department to find the best employees for you at 936
709-7671.
A Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question or comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station at irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with the Lone Star Community Radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's the final segment of this week's Weekly Business Hour. And again, thank you for joining us today. I hope the show has been beneficial because we're here to help you, to educate you, to provide you with solutions and opportunities to improve your business. Well, let's just take the few minutes we have left, kind of double back on a topic I touched on last week, which is the traits or characteristics of successful entrepreneurs. There are many of them. Last week we talked about having the passion, knowing what you want, and making smart decisions. These are all positive and great characteristics for the small business owner, entrepreneur to have. But there are also some others. One of them that I learned throughout my life was, I was told over and over, don't tell me how hard you work today, tell me how smart. I was challenged with that. So that is a characteristic of an entrepreneur, right? In small business, we start a business, we typically get by with less. We make it work. So having a characteristic of working smart and not just hard is very important and can make the difference, I believe, of a successful and a not so successful business. So 80%, 80-20 rule, it's been said, can be applied to analyze and think about this idea. 80% are your efforts on 20% of the work. In other words, the smart and then doing the work that is smart, making those good decisions. So I think it's very, very important that you have that characteristic. Another one is that you know where to find knowledge. None of us knows everything, even though a few think they do. But the ability to access resources, in particular people, individuals, such as a mentor, which I happen to believe, if you don't know, is a critical ingredient when you start and build a business. People to work for you, to know where to find the best people, to know where to find your customers, obviously. But this is having the right knowledge to know where to go and to get that information, who to contact. Again, plays back to being smart. And I think it's important, though, because with the right knowledge, you obviously will move through situations faster. You will build a better, more solid business, and you will build it faster. So it's so important to know or have the right knowledge on what you're attempting to do with your business, and then to bring the different parts of it together, whether it be people or products or equipment, whatever. Having the right knowledge that fits your business, so critical, so important. And, of course, the old one that I love, being willing to step out of our comfort zone. That's a given, because when you start a business, if you've never started or owned a business, you're outside your comfort zone. So you're, in a sense, that's what you're doing when you make the first move to open your business, your first business. So the ability not only to accept being in the comfort zone, but those that are so successful are the ones who thrive with being outside their comfort zone. And there's a lot of in between those two things, between those two ends. A lot of people are somewhat, comfortable, somewhat uncomfortable. But if you're truly comfortable and accept the risk and the challenges, the rewards typically are going to be much bigger. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for taking the time to join us. And in closing, I want to thank John Stacy again for taking his time, bringing his unique wisdom to the table on how to build a business in current times. Please put a note on your calendar to join us again next Monday right here on irlonestar.com at 11 a.m. And look for the video podcast of today's program on Wednesday of this week. It'll be posted across social media. So if you have questions, you missed a segment, or if you'd like to share it with some other person who's in business or thinking of going in business, you can do that. And as always, till next week, stay engaged and always keep your focus